Wow, I doubled down on what I said in my previous video. Heisuke is my favorite character in this series. And Sakamoto Days, something I can give it credit on is that, in animes when they have those ending sequences for 1 or 2 minutes when they add an extra thing to it, Hunter x Hunter with his infamous Huncyclopedias, you have One Piece. They've now added like ending bits explaining the One Piece lore ever since the anime got to Egghead. Now, I think honestly, the last two ending sequences for Sakamoto Days have been brilliant. Where we've had the two hitmen, what's her name? Osaragi and Shus, the blonde guy, them going to like a canteen or a mini festival and eating ramen. That was hilarious. But this recent one with Heisuke hanging out with everybody because they all have day jobs and he doesn't. So he hangs out with Shin, Sakamoto, and his family, and he hangs out with Lou. That was hilarious. I loved it. I loved it to bits. So keep doing stuff like that sort of adds to the characters and we get to know them more. I'm wondering if that was a panel in the manga because in between chapters in manga they usually have like pages where they do mini stories. I'm wondering if this was one of the mini stories. It probably was, but fantastic stuff. But overall, so many thoughts. It would have been good for me to do a written review for this episode, but I'll start doing written reviews from tomorrow. I know some of you have given me that feedback about doing writing and people said B-roll, but I notice when people say B-roll, they don't just mean B-roll and adding images. It's actually the writing that engages people into a video. You'll understand from tomorrow when I start writing again. People will be like, wow, these videos are so good. It's because they're more structured. But there's a lot of thoughts for me in regards to this episode. First off, something I've noticed about Sakamoto Days so far, in terms of the way the story's structured, is that a lot of the arcs seem to be bleeding into each other quite well and they flow. There's no sort of gap in between because I feel as though we're heading into a new arc. The prisoner inmates arc is over, I believe. And I feel as though we're heading into something entirely new at the JAA from where we left off because essentially all of the prisoners now have been defeated. Nagamo defeated the big black guy. Sakamoto defeated Undone, I believe his name is, in this episode. Osaragi defeated the black chick, and then the other dude was tag teamed. The American guy was tag teamed by Shin and Lu, which was a great fight as well. So they're all done with. And that was all a massive diversion for Slur. Now, again, this video is all over the place, but Slur, with him and his new companion we saw at the end of the episode, a critique I have for this show so far is that a lot of the characters' personalities aren't as distinct as I would like them to be. Because Slur is just so far, he's just another very nonchalant sort of villain. And so is his companion. But we already have sort of nonchalant villains with Osaragi and the blonde guy. So it would be cool if they had more distinctive personalities. I'm just noticing this a lot with Sakamoto Days. Even in terms of the character expressions, like we've got so many deadpan characters in this show, and it just feels like there's too much on this side. I mean, Nagamo is not so much, because Nagamo, I wouldn't say he's deadpan. He's very nonchalant as well, but he's nonchalant in the sort of cocky, funny way, kind of like Gojo, so it's a little bit different. But Slur and his friend, they're literally just very one note. Like the guy, it was scary at the end of the episode where there was the guard at the end, and then that guy just with the massive sort of hammer on his back just punches the guy, and it wasn't like a normal punch where someone like gets knocked into something. He punches him, and he literally combusts and falls onto the ground. That was crazy. I guess the guys have red eyes for a reason. So they go into the JAA, but that's my one critique. It's kind of too deadpan, in my opinion, for those villains. I wish they had more distinctive personalities. But in regards to the actual episode, like the main conflict, which was between Sakamoto and Undone, I'm just going to make sure I'm getting his name right. Alright, so I did some digging, and his name is a part. Essentially, this was a part backstory. And A minor critique as well. I think that a character shouldn't just be built on their backstory. Not saying his character was only built on his backstory, he did do some other stuff. But, and again, this is an earlier arc in the series, so I'm gonna give it some grace in terms of how fast it moved, because it did move kind of fast. It was like 3 episodes, I believe, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that when you're building out the show. It just it doesn't have as much as a big impact to me when you just introduce a character and then you give a big backstory. I mean, it worked. It worked with Silky and Dandadan because that was such a big sort of flashback, and I think the way they did it was so symbolic. And what they did here was kind of somewhat symbolic. It was pretty good, but that was just my minor critique of that so far. But overall, it was a good flashback because we got to know why a part is the way he is. And I do like the metaphor with his string that Sakamoto, what they'll, the message that they're getting with why he uses string. But let me just go through the backstory. Basically, Apart was a bit of a loner and he didn't understand people. And his dad tried to take care of him and say, look, you're cool. His mum was a total ass. His mum would just literally see him there by himself and then just look in the distance, not even let him know that she acknowledges he's there. Like, she just on the side while he's in the dark room and she does nothing. Anyway, his dad was okay at the start before he had no chill. Because later on he has total no chill. But basically, he was alone. He wanted to figure out, oh, how can I be friends with people? And his dad's like, you just need to be nice to everybody. Be nice and you'll be cool. He tried. It didn't work. Then all of a sudden, this dude finds a cat. And the way this was done was a bit confusing to me at first. Because the way the shot is done, you don't see the cat. So basically, he deletes the cat, but you don't see that on screen. It's sort of off screen, and you just see him with like a knife. You know, one of those knives you use to like cut like large plastic pieces in design and technology. It was like one of those sort of knives, the ones you kind of have at school where you clip the thing out and then he used one of those. I thought for a second this was going to be about self-harm, and I was like, whoa, they're tackling SH in Sakamoto Days. That's pretty deep. But it was crazy because they tackled him deleting a cat, which was insane. So the dad's like, whoa. The mom just doesn't say anything. She's just there, right? The dad's like, whoa, why did you do that? So they take him to the doctor to see if there's something wrong with his brain. Nothing's wrong with the guy's brain at all. The doctor's like, no, he's totally fine. Nothing's normal, no tumors, nothing weird, no abnormalities. So the dad just flips out. He just flips out on the doctor. He's like, dude, how can you say this about my son? You just saying my son is a monster? And then Apart comes to calm down his dad. He's like, dad, calm down. And then he's like, no! The dad pushes down Apart. Apart loses his crap, basically. And just starts like slitting up the dad completely, which was gruesome, with scissors. And I was like, whoa, that is gruesome. And then he looks at the dad's brain and he's like, now we're more connected because I can see we're just the same inside, you know? He looks at the brain scan and he's like, yeah, your brain is like mine. We're just the same. We're connected now. So through this warped sort of ideology of the world, he thinks through like deleting people, he can gain a better connection to them, which is just completely messed up. And we go to the actual fight, and Sakamoto is just mollywopping him. But before he mollywops him, this was crazy. Apart uses his strings and like literally cuts this. I believe this is. I don't know if this is just a random sky tree or Tokyo Tower, because I believe they are in Tokyo, right? He cuts like the top half of the building and it like slants and is gradually falling. So Sakamoto needs to use like the electric wires to like hoist it down so it actually stands up straight, which is an amazing feat of strength. And obviously Apart is not going to let him do it. But then the samurai dude shows up. This dude cuts part of the bottom sort of foundations of the entire structure, so it balances out. So you have the structure that's like kind of slanted, but it stands up straight. And that dude was insane. He just comes in and cuts it like it was nothing, and then he goes back into the taxi. I was like, dude, you are insane. After this, Sakamoto just mollywops the guy, just throwing him around with his string, because Sakamoto was saying to him before is that you deleting people isn't growing a greater connection to them. You're severing the bond. And then he later on says, I'm not going to give up. He says something along the lines of this: I'm not going to give up on you because I'm going to keep on to this string. Almost like, I'm not going to sever the bond between me and you because you may be a monster, but there may be some sort of deeper redeeming quality about you to an extent to where he doesn't believe. That's his whole thing. Because of his wife, he doesn't believe in that sort of assassination thing anymore. So he just beats him up, takes him back to the grandma. You know, the grandma that can heal people. He takes him back to the her crib where they can question him later on. And obviously Heisuke's there and he's chilling, and they're all eating tangerines and what it seems like cookies, which was pretty chill. But yeah, the episode after that, we go to the sequence with Slur and that, but that's the end of the episode. And I'll just say, this was fantastic. This was a really good episode, very hype inducing. Again, I have my little critiques about the personalities and about like, I'm gonna say an over reliance on flashbacks, but it's not really. It's just the fact that these are early stage villains, so it may seem like that. Because like maybe I'm just used to like longer arcs in a way, or my standard for what I believe to be a great villains are higher because of other series I've consumed. You know, when you're a big One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Naruto fan, when you're a fan of those series, like you have like a higher standard, I believe, in terms of villains. Some would argue otherwise for some of those series, but whatever, right? So good stuff overall. This has been a long yap session on one episode, so I'm really getting into Sakamoto Days. So next week, Wednesday, because I believe episodes drop on Wednesdays. I thought they're on Mondays, but they actually drop on Wednesdays. I will... Oh, I say next week Wednesday. It's probably this week Wednesday. Episode 16 is coming out, right? I will actually do a written review and do some editing and make a proper video. But these yap sessions have been very great for me because they've actually been very fun to make, really fun to just talk about anime and manga like this. And there's something I can always come back to if I'm busy during that day. If it's very hard for me to make a video per se, I can just do a little yap session like this. I know one or two people will appreciate it, but it's just very good to do this. And it's also made me realize about YouTube, right, is that I've got to find a balance between talking about what I want to talk about and talking about what you guys are interested in terms of the wider anime community. Because the first Yap session, in terms of impressions, like that thing like went bananas. It did pretty well. The other metrics are bad because, you know, it's just me yapping. But compared to the Code Geass video I did, which I put a lot more effort into, the Yap session had a lot more interest. So if I actually made a video that I put in as much effort, not as much because that's a longer video, but I put in the same level of effort into it as the Code Geass video, I feel as though people would really appreciate that because people are talking about Sakamoto Days. So it has to be a thing of where you scratch my back and I scratch yours, to where I talk about things you are interested in and I'm interested in, and I put the effort into making it a good video, and then we can build this thing up together. So I'm not quitting because I had that stupid video where I was like, I'm gonna quit, like being a little idiot. I'm just learning to adapt, and I thank you guys who have commented and liked the video so far. I'm going to be more active, posting polls to my community page and uploading every single day, talking about whatever anime that I'm watching, which my taste seems to be a lot of the popular shows anyway, so yeah, that's pretty cool. And there will be one show that I want to cover this season that isn't as popular, but the first episode of it, I watched it and I just love the vibe of it. So I will be covering some weird show that I hope I can get a couple of people into. But besides that, I'm going to just end this video off because the last couple of minutes last few minutes of it were just an update, but that's fine. This is a yapping session. Anyway, live and learn, good luck and God bless. Catch you guys tomorrow with a Dan video. I believe I'll be reviewing episode 3 of season 2. Bye.